First booktube video I've done in over a year, and my cat's down here and he just doesn't want me to film this. Hey guys! So it's Elise, that person who made one video like a year ago. It was over a year ago. And then ditched. So I've decided to return for the summer and do a few videos. I've been blogging all year and goodreadsing all year, but I haven't done any filming, so I'm gonna try this out and see if I like it. You know, the video format does allow me to flail a little bit more, and you get to really see just how fucking embarrassing I am, so that's cool. So for this first video, I'm going to be doing the mid-year book tag, which I was tagged in by Jamieson at Jamie Shelves. She is a blogger, she's amazing, you should follow her, I will link her. And this tag is just kind of a, let's go through everything that you've read so far this year. And I've read a lot so far this year. It's been of mixed quality, but got a lot of good stuff going on, so I'm excited. The first question on this tag is best book you've read so far this year, and for that I'm gonna have to go with Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake. I've talked about this book ad nauseum, and I'm pretty sure it's driving everyone crazy, but this is my favorite book. I love this book. This book follows Mara, a girl who finds out that her brother has been accused of rape by one of her best friends, and it's mostly a book about trauma in general, because not only does Hannah have her own trauma from, you know, being raped by Mara's brother, but it's also about the trauma that Mara is dealing with, and we really don't see that at the beginning of the book, but as the book goes on, you really see that play into Mara's arc and Mara's own complicated feelings about what Owen's been accused of. So this is just a really heartbreaking book, but it's also not tragic. It's kind of this story about coming to terms with losing somebody that you thought you knew. But it's also a book about discovering how to move past your own trauma and how to sort of come to terms with that, because Mara's not come to terms with any of her own trauma at the beginning of this book, and the way the book plays off that is just so amazing. It's got a really good romance. The romance is amazing. It's so good. All of the characters are very real feeling. I'd kind of say that there are four main characters who we kind of see how Owen's actions have affected, and that's Mara, Hannah, Charlie, and Alex. And Charlie is Mara's ex. She is genderqueer. She's like my favorite character. And Charlie and Mara are kind of dealing with the fallout of their breakup because they used to be best friends, and also maybe trying to figure out if there could ever be something more between them again. Alex is sort of Owen's best friend who's dealing with his own feelings about the fact that Owen was just accused of something so awful. And I just really love how this narrative focuses so much on all of them and makes all of them feel like such sympathetic, real characters. This book is just so heartfelt and amazing and honest and beautiful, and my cat just walked in and he's totally ruining the mood. Say hi, Tony. The next question on this tag is best sequel you've read so far this year, and I actually have two for this, and my cat just came back in the room again. One of them I'm going to mention for my answer to one of the other questions, so wait for that, you'll see. But my number one answer is Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. So this has the honor of being the only book that I've ever written a school paper because of. Because one of the big topics discussed in this book is eugenics, and I wrote my big final term paper for history on eugenics, and I got interested in that because of this book. So thanks, book, for teaching me that America is kind of to blame for Nazism. This series is really great. It's sort of multi-POV, paranormal historical fiction set in the 1920s. There are ghosts and there are a lot of really cool lead characters. I'm so invested in every single lead character in this. I've listened to all of these on audiobook. The audiobooks are fantastic. I gotta say, especially in this book, my favorites are Theta and Ling. Theta and Memphis and Henry and Ling are kind of consistently my favorite characters in this series, but I honestly love all of them. This was also the book where I liked Evie the most. I think in book 2 I was a little less invested in Evie, and especially in book 1 I was not that invested in Evie, but I've really begun to get invested in her as I've gone through the series, and I also like Sam now. And I didn't like Sam in book 1 at all, and now I love Sam, and there are just so many cool characters in this. It's so good. There were a few flaws in this particular book. I think the way it ended was a little, well, the way it actually ended was cool, just the last quarter had some problems, which I got into in my Goodreads review. But overall, I think this series just does such a good job of making the personal political, of bringing to light history that you might not know about, and history that's really important to know. In the epilogue of this book, there's this paragraph where Libba Bray talks about why she wrote these, and it's like my favorite part of the entire book. And it ends on the line, "This is a book about ghosts, for we live in a haunted house." And I think that's just a really good thing to remember about American history, that despite the whole America is so great rhetoric that we see a lot, especially in the US, it's really good to remember that the US had a lot of flaws, and we never were a country that was great for people of color and for immigrants. And this book is really about that, because all of the characters in the series are outcasts. A lot of them are LGBT. Ling and Henry are both gay. A lot of them are people of color. Ling and Memphis and Isaiah, and a lot of other characters. It's just a really great series about the oppression that people used to face. Especially this book gets super, super political, but they're also so fun. Like, the character-driven, the ghost stories are so great. There's this scene with a bathtub in this book that literally fucked me up so hard. I was listening to it on audiobook in the car on the way to school, and I got to my first period class and I was shaking. Oh my god, when is book 4 going to come out? The third question is a new release that you haven't read yet but you really want to, and I've actually done a far better job this year of keeping up with new releases, but there is one that's very high on this list. Anger is a Gift by Mark Oshiro. So I met Mark Oshiro at a signing, and he was so cool as a person. I used to follow all his Mark Reads Twilight and Mark Reads Harry Potter series. Those are hilarious and I highly recommend them. But I've just seen so much good about this book. It's a lot about police brutality within schools. It is very long for a contemporary. This book just sounds really cool. The main character is gay and black, and there are a lot of cool side characters from what I've heard. My cat keeps meowing during my sentences. The next question is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And the thing about this question is I already read my most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And it was Bright We Burn by Kiersten White. This is the third book in the And I Darken series, which I 4-starred book 1 of, and then I read book 2, and book 2 is one of my favorite books of all time. So I was really, really anticipating this. I was really desperate to figure out what happened and how it ended, and this series conclusion was so good. I have a tendency to be very picky about series conclusions. Pretty much the only series conclusion I like is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. So I am very happy with this series conclusion. I did not think it was going to end so how I wanted it to end. It didn't give me every single thing I wanted, but it also kind of did. It was pretty much the perfect conclusion. It worked very well narratively. I do think this book was a little more slow than book 2 and not necessarily quite as high quality. I think it could have gone with like one more round of editing, but the character stuff is so good. Radu is still my favorite character, but even Lada is a very compelling character and so excellent. The relationship between her and Radu, who are fake married because they're both gay, is literally the best thing I have ever read in my entire life, and they play with that dynamic so much. Also, I was really worried that a certain main character wasn't gonna show up again. That was just gonna be the end, and that we're gonna go a little tragic gaze, and it didn't. I can't say anything because I don't want to spoil things, but like, it was so good. The next question is biggest disappointment of the year, and I have 2 answers for this. Number 1 is myself. And number 2 is Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. Oh my god. So I read and 5-starred This Savage Song literally less than 2 weeks ago, and it was amazing. This Savage Song is such a good book. It is so 10 out of 10. Great character development, super fast paced. I was unable to put it down, and so filled with tension. And yet, this book, god damn it, I am so mad about this. All right, my main problem with this book is that it basically takes the ending of the first book and then is like, we're not gonna play with the fallout of that at all. We're just gonna add in 1,000 new plot points because we don't know how to start this book. And it's just this very awkward beginning. August gets this character change that really changes him as a character and doesn't really feel that sensical, because we don't see the build-up for that in book 1 at all. He basically goes from being like a really soft, sweet character who I love, and he was my favorite in book 1, to ruthless, mean killing machine, and it doesn't really make any sense. Like, we don't get a sense of why he's become that. A lot about this series was actually really disappointing. I found myself really not connecting with August at all. I don't feel like either of the characters had much of an impact on the plot. I think Victoria Schwab's series conclusions tend to suffer from she just wants to get it to the end, and she has an end plotted out, and then the ending is good, but everything else is just kind of, let's go through the motions. And I really felt that here. I didn't think Kate had any influence on the plot, and August had even less influence on the plot. There are a bunch of cool new side characters added in, and we really don't see any character development for any of them. Ilsa, who is the coolest side character in the first book, doesn't get any more development than she did in the first book. Sorrow, who is this cool new character who shows up, they don't get any development. We don't even know their backstory, and that really bothered me because the Sunai backstory in the first book was my favorite part. There's also this random new monster that shows up, and it's really just a plot device to bring home the book. There are like 3 big bads, and the plot feels totally ridiculous because we don't even know who we're fighting. Alice is a cool villain. She's a very personal demon for Kate, and that feels like a cool conflict, but then the conflict between this random new monster that shows up in August, please, come on. I had a lot of the same problems with this as I did with A Conjuring of Light, which was the other series conclusion that I was not a fan of. I know a lot of people love her series conclusions. I hate her series conclusions. I don't think they're very good. I really hope Vengeful doesn't disappoint me like this, because if so, I'm gonna have to hide in my hole. Okay, so I just realized that this tag doesn't let you just talk about every single book that you've read so far this year, and I have so many more books that I want to talk about that were on my favorites list that I'm not gonna get the chance to talk about. So for this next question, which is newest favorite character, I'm going to list every single newest favorite character I've had this year. You ready? Because I'm not. Nita and Kovit from Not Even Bones by Rebecca Schaefer. Aster and Theo from An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon. Mara and Charlie from Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake. Ling, Theta, Memphis, and Henry from Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. Elena and Freddie from The Apocalypse of Elena Mendoza by Sean David Hutchinson. Murderbot, yes, I swear to God I'm not kidding about that, from the Murderbot series. Jesus Christ. But from Martha Wells. Romy from The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. Cyanite and Alabaster from the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. I love this series. I'm reading book 2 right now. Kate Harger and August, I Was Done Dirty in the sequel from This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. Leia and Ren from Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Wan. Oh god, I hate myself so much for this. Tessa, Will, and Jem from, oh my god, don't make me say it, The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. Fuck. Circe from Circe by Madeline Miller. I love this book. Jude and, to some degree, Carden, maybe, I don't know, from The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So good. Evelyn Hugo and Celia St. James from The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Layla and Hannah from Final Draft by Riley Redgate. This just came out. It's so amazing. Please read it. This has already been mentioned, but Natasha from The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. Okay, now that I've finished that ridiculous list, next up is a book that made you happy, and for that I'm gonna go with Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. I can't believe I just hallucinated that name. What the fuck? So the reason I liked this is because in 2015 I read Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, and I read a review for it on Goodreads about 6 months later that said, among other things, I'm still kind of mad that Leah and Abby didn't end up together. Because, you know, I think there was something going on between them, and there were a couple of lines that alluded to it, so I just don't understand why they were forced in this extremely heterosexual love triangle. Well, 2015 gay me. You were right. This is like one of the only times I've ever had a sapphic ship go canon. Like, I feel like I need to put this on a pedestal and just... I loved this. I loved this. It made me so happy. I was just deeply, deeply happy about this. Oh, also I thought it was hilarious that the kind of brother school of my top choice college got mentioned as like the nerdy gay college, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Favorite adaptation is the next question, and I'm pretty sure I haven't even watched any adaptations besides Love, Simon. So I'm gonna mention Love, Simon. Love, Simon was a great adaptation. I feel like we've discussed this a lot. I don't need to spend time on this. It's really good. It's a good adaptation. And also I have seen literally no other adaptations, so yeah. Next up is favorite review you've written, and I'm really proud of a lot of different reviews I've written this year, but I'm gonna mention 2, and I have physical copies of neither of the books, so please forgive me. Number 1 is All Out, which is a collection of short stories. I love writing short story anthology reviews. I always go into a lot of detail and do like a full paragraph about every single thing. And for this one, I did like little markers to indicate all the different representation and when all the stories took place, because it's like queer teens throughout the ages. And I was just so proud of my review. I rated like 7 stories 5 stars, I think, which never happens to me. I always rate like 2 stories 5 stars. And then the other review I wrote that I'm really proud of is of a book I really hated, and it was The Dangerous Art of Blending In by Angela Sermelis. I don't really like talking about this book. I found it really disturbing. It is a book about a boy who has dealt with parental abuse with his mother, is currently dealing with it, and kind of is saved from it by a boy. And I think that alone would have been enough for me to kind of be like, 2 stars, that really bothered me. Even though the writing was really, well, the writing was okay, and even though some of the character stuff was decent, I just would have been turned off by that. But I thought the relationship in this, the main relationship, kind of bordered on abusive. It's really lacking in consent. The main character is kissed multiple times, so many times, without his consent. There's a really creepy scene where the love interest like takes off his shirt with no consent, and he's like got his arms around his chest, and it's meant to be this like kind of romantic thing. I feel like he's willing to break down your walls. No, that's creepy. That's really creepy. And there's just a lot of scenes where the love interest, I think this might be poor writing, but the love interest will like get mad at things at the drop of a hat. And there were a couple of scenes where it's like he's all happy and smiling, and then a sentence later he's really angry. And you know, I really wish I could chalk that up to bad writing, but that bothers me so much. It's really fucked up. There's one scene where the love interest sticks his hand under the thigh of the main character, and they are not dating at this time. They have like broken up, and also the main character is not out to anyone and is deeply, deeply closeted, and the main character is in a car with their fucking family, and he thinks it's acceptable to shove his hand under the other person's thigh, and it's so creepy. I was really mad about it, and I wrote a very detailed, very well done, in my opinion, review of this book with direct quotes. It made me really angry. I am so upset about this book. The final question on this tag is what books you want to finish by the end of the year, and for this I had so many answers. So let me just read off a few of them. The Wicked King by Holly Black, which I have an arc of as of like an hour ago. The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White. Wildcard by Marie Lu. Sadie by Courtney Summers. Blanca y Roja by Anna Marie McLemore. This was one of my most anticipated releases. So thank you for watching my second ever booktube video, a whole year late. Hope you guys enjoyed, and see you next time. Bye.